Hey everyone, welcome to the Permission to Play podcast, a creative talk podcast where you have permission to be creative and to experience everything that comes along with the process. We are your hosts, myself, Christina Barcy. We have Kyle Dallatorre and Yelpy, and of course Lloyd Robeson. Let's get started. All right, welcome everybody to the Permission to Play podcast. We're here for you. So the topic today is identity. We're going to be talking about identity. And that can mean a million different things. And a couple things I thought about what it might mean is what makes you a creative or an artist. And if your art is pursued as a hobby, are you less of an artist? What keeps people from identifying as an artist? If you feel that you're a creative, what's the difference? Creative versus artist. Is that a different thing? And what about over-identification? Can you over-identify as something? What do you guys think?
I don't think you need to be actively pursuing an art to be an artist. I think as long as you're as long as you're creating something,
Right. That makes me wonder, I see a lot of other quote-unquote professions, artistic, creative, whatever you want to call it, specifically creative. So, what's the difference between, a scientist who's being extremely innovative and creative on a daily basis? What's the difference between what they're doing and what's someone who defines art? What's the difference between those pursuants? That's not a word. You know what I'm trying to say. Pursuits.
That's interesting because I do think that there's a sense of art in everything. Let's take the scientist example. Their job is to create truth in our world and in our life, things that are actual facts. And within that, finding out certain things like what is gravity, why does it hold us down, and all this other stuff. There's an art form to the method that they go about figuring these things out. And certain people, like in coding, there's an art form to creating a code. Now, if I'm writing a code, I could be writing a code and it could be, super, super long, and somebody else can come around and write that exact same code and take half the time, take up half the space, and it just makes so much more sense. So I feel like there's an art in that also. But I do believe that if we're talking the arts in the broad sense of entertainment, painting, writing, other examples of being an artist, I think that creativity is not necessarily art in that way. It's, I think art is a part of creativity, if that makes sense. It's like sort of separating the two where they're not coinciding all the time.
Or creativity is a part of art, maybe, because I feel like creativity is a part of everyone, where being an artist isn't necessarily perhaps.
Sorry, that's exactly what I was saying.
I just love the way Lloyd said, if I'm writing a code. It's like when your dad says, are you on the Facebook?
Are you on the Facebook? If I'm
writing
coding? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out why Yelpy was smiling. I was like, I wanted to laugh so bad.
Are you guys on the Facebook? Get off the Facebook.
If I'm writing a code.
Yeah. If I'm coding.
Oh my gosh.
Good stuff.
That just is.
Yeah, but go ahead. Go ahead, Percy.
Oh, it's nothing. Go ahead, Kyle.
I was just my thought about it is, first of all, it's a very subjective term. I feel I personally feel like there's definitely a difference between being an entertainer and being an artist. You can absolutely do both. There's a ton of entertainers out there who are also artists, but I feel like it's about an objective or about maybe a point of view that you're trying to actually communicate something, and that you've put some thought behind it, and you've put your point of view behind it, and you're almost a craftsman in that way. But again, that term artist is so broad that it's very, I mean, I love this topic. I think it's very interesting to hear what others consider, a true artist, whatever that means. I think it's
very interesting that you distinguish entertainment from art, or an entertainer from an artist. I would like to hear more about like the sort of nuance of that idea.
I think it's, again, this is just for me personally. I think that it's definitely looking at something as a product for entertainment purposes. I want to entertain you, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to put on a show.
Kicking somebody in the balls.
Entertainment.
That could be entertainment, but that's not necessarily
right, but is that art.
Yeah.
Do you have a point of view behind that? Are you trying to speak about something about, maybe how the world is kicking you in the balls? Like maybe that's art.
I've seen that.
Right?
I've seen that. It's
Maybe.
Russian and it's awesome. The guy just it's like hitting himself in the balls, but it's an artistic piece about how life continually is painful and unrelenting, and it will destroy you if you allow it to.
Right.
I think there's two big things here. There's like the broad sense of the word artist, which is pretty much all encompassing. It covers everything you do, because everything you do can be artistic. Even like people working in trash. Like, I mean, they can be like, anal about the way they do things, so they're almost like an artist about the way they go about it or whatever. So, but then there's the category sense where what Kyle was speaking of is when you're an artist if you create something, if you're creating something, and you're an entertainer if you are entertaining but not creating, that kind of way. So then you're taking a broad artist and you're putting them into categories. I think that's we all like to do that, but I think generally there's art is in everything, and then there's the categories on top of that.
Yeah. So that you guys these are really interesting things. It's like the idea of art versus artist, and there's a difference in those, especially if somebody explains something to you. In a sense, like Yelpy just did, where certain thing, there's art in everything, right? There's art is beauty, it's blah blah blah. There's you can find art in everything, but to be an artist is something completely different.
I want to say, how I'm hearing that is that it seems like there's inspiration for an artist in everything, because that's true, and I do believe that there's components of methodology that as artists we experience. We're systematic and we have systems and processes, and that can come out in other facets, other things that people do. But that doesn't. I think it comes back to the intent, and it's almost like a circular sort of question, because from my perspective, I feel like the fact that you identify a certain way then sort of instills a message. Normally by you identifying a certain way as an artist, that in itself then deems you an artist to some extent, as long as you are putting that into something, into a process. So I feel like engaging in the process and then having something you're trying to say or like, have an opinion on, like Lloyd, what your statement about the scientists wanting to bring truth into the world, I feel like that is my exact idea of what artists do, is to try to like create truths for people, the world, places and times and experiences. And we're trying to sort of put a truth out there, whether it's our own truth or a reflection on society or a statement about what's going on politically. some kind of truth.
Yeah.
And maybe
and
it
that's
is,
like the difference between a scientist and an artist, right? Is like the scientist is creating universal truth, a thing that is universally known and is right and correct and how it works. Whereas coming as an artist, you can only speak from your own truth
perspective.
And perspective.
Yeah.
And showing that, which may not be reality for everyone. And that's the
Right.
beauty of it all, is that, you know, there's something out there for everybody to latch onto, to identify with. And I like this idea of identity, and, you know, everybody has an identity. But do you think that because you are creative and because you do things for the betterment of society through an artistic lens, and if you don't consider yourself an artist, is it us as a population or a consumer that considers that person an artist, even if they don't, or does the term artist come from like a self-identifier?
Right. I guess that's what I was trying to say. I feel like it's always up to the individual. I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, identity is about the person. You know, we ID each other to kind of make society work. So that's a thing, of course. But I think true, like, sort of how you identify yourself is the only aspect that really matters at the end of the day, because that's what you're going to end up projecting. So, you know, you bring in perspective again of a group, let's say. And like, let's say I've never met any of you before, and I'm making my jump ID sort of judgments on what I think you guys all are and what you do, because we're always going to do that. That's part of being a human. So it doesn't really matter what I think, because you're the only one that knows your truth and your true identity. So I feel like it always comes back to the individual and perspective, and then a process for it to be an artist versus someone who's just identifying as creative. So I feel like there are differences there, and there are some nuances, but at the end, I mean, we're making this, it's fun to talk about this stuff, and it can get really heavy, but I think in the end of the day, it's really light. It's really like whatever you want is the truth. It's the real answer.
As much as anyone can say, you know, I'm an artist. If that person believes they're an artist, I mean, who am I to like go, no, you're not, because your process isn't. Well, no, you're not. It is really light, and I think you're right that it is an individual's choice to identify themselves as that.
Do you know what's also very important and is also relative, is how we look at other people, and we decide what they're doing, if what they're doing is art. Just like Kyle was saying, like, you know, oh, if they're doing such and such, they're only an entertainer, they're not an artist. But that's Kyle's point of view. That's what Kyle thinks an artist is. Where somebody else might have a completely other opinion. Like for me, for example, I don't think Britney Spears is an artist.
I don't know.
Shots fired. Pow, 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 Britney.
Coming at you. But what I guess my point that I just want to clarify is, I truly believe that you can do both. Like there is like, you know, you can cross that, and plenty of artists do. I mean, Beyonce, great, like, man, first of all, she's perfect. Nobody touch Beyonce right now. Don't touch her, okay?
Careful when you're talking about the queen.
Don't touch Beyonce. But she has...
Leave Beyonce alone!
Seriously, don't. But she has her music and her choices that she makes through her instrument. Not to mention her lyrics. I understand she herself is a songwriter. She also has songwriters. But the thing that she creates is very, very entertaining. And sometimes it's tongue-in-cheek, sometimes it's very deep, but she's able to cross that pretty effortlessly. And I mean, there's a history of people who are true artists. And what I mean by true artists is they identify as an artist, they have a process, like that's their self-identification, and they happen to be crazily, you know, entertaining as well. But there are some people out there who I don't know if they'd consider themselves an artist, who are putting stuff out there because for their own reasons that, like, I don't know each individual, so I can't make any judgments on them. But I would be hard to say that the people who are creating Jackass are like actually doing it with any kind of art. They're probably just doing it to have a good time, maybe, and to like make some dollars. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, so does that make sense to everybody? Am I making
Yeah.
sense? Great.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up Prince. We were talking about Prince earlier. And that's such a good example, too, I think, of like someone that can do both, that really gets how to do both. And I think that's the trouble with straddling both. It's hard. A lot of us want that, right? A lot of us who are in the industry or who have an art that is in that area, like singing or maybe acting or whatever it is. And we kind of want to know how to do both, right? You want to be an entertainer and you want to stay true to like your message. And it's like, if you can manage to do both, I feel like it's an anomaly. It's very hard to do. And that's why Beyonce and Prince are like icons, because it's really hard to do that, I think.
I would be interested to hear if they had to choose. Like if you ask Beyonce, hey, you could either be entertaining or you could be an artist. Which one is more important to you? I would think, I don't fucking know Beyonce. I hope I do, though. If Beyonce's listening, like, please, can we be friends? Do you need one more friend in the world? But I would wonder if she would. I would think that she would say, like, my art is, at the core.
What
of it.
she would say is, my art is entertaining. So, there.
Yeah.
Take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Loophole.
Yeah.
Right through there.
That's what it is, right? It's like,
Well, yeah, that's good.
The art is.
Yeah.
Art is entertainment in a definition. Our entertainment is art, right? At some point those two coincide and live in a symbiotic world. They can. I feel like they can be separate. Some art is not meant to be entertaining, and some entertainment is not meant to be art. Like if I'm at a party, fucking entertaining people around me, I'm not being artistic. I'm just being me. And I happen to just be entertaining somebody, and so I think there is, like Yelpy said, there is a loophole where it's a sweet spot where if you are, as an artist, have a line that you are hitting in with your art, and that art happens to have a mass appeal, that is entertaining to people, especially Beyonce. Like her art. The stuff she pours her heart into is super entertaining. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever said like, well, that's Beyonce's art. That's not entertaining. Regardless if I like it or regardless if I like it or I love it, because I don't dislike anything Beyonce do, but it's like it's still entertaining to me. And I think that's what you're talking about, Christina, is that line of having some sort of artistic expression that reaches out to a mass of people, and even like a small amount of people. But in Beyonce's case, it's a mass.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like your answer to what Beyonce might say, Lloyd, makes a lot of sense to me, because it comes down to, I feel like she approaches her craft very truthfully, especially of late. More recently in the last few albums, but
what you saying?
Yeah. Well,
I know nothing about Beyonce, so I don't know any of her songs.
Well, there's this thing where you unapologetically become yourself, as you continue on in life and in art. Hopefully, like that's what you want, right? That's what we hope to get to, and most of us kind of get there at some point. And if you stick to crafting your craft, really, like working on your instrument, working on your process, whatever it is, that gets better and better and solid and reliable. And then, the more truthful you become, the more entertaining it becomes, because people relate to that. That's what we want as humans.
Dude, that's beautiful. What you just said, like, it makes the world of difference in talking about identity, because somebody just took on this artistic view of the world and decided to be a singer, an artist. And they trained and they became good at what they did, their art. They have a process. They became really good at their art. Now they can sing. So now it's all about, now what am I going to do? She can be as artistic as she want to be in a fucking room by herself. But because through her father and like having the right people around her when she was younger, she has been able to turn her artistic expression into entertainment. Mm-hmm. And I think something that rang in with me when you were talking was that your artistic expression is solely yours to decide what you want to do with it. Yeah. And if you are an artist and you want to put your art out there for entertainment, then so be it. Yeah. And that's that through line. That's like, that's how you get to that through line, is you figure out what your craft is and what you want to achieve with your art. And then you focus in on it, become good at what you do, and then you decide what you want to do with that. I mean, obviously, it's easier said than done, but I mean, that's where you achieve that line. If Beyonce wasn't that great, she wouldn't really have the stardom that she has. And I know people are like, well, there are a lot of singers out there who are fucking terrible, but there's some people I wouldn't say are an artist. I would say they're entertainers, like we were talking about earlier. Some people who are just doing it for the money. They have a decent voice, but that voice only comes through after it's been synthesized and gone through a machine, and now it sounds good and then put out there because it has a great beat to it.
Yeah, there's manufactured artists for sure, and I wonder if that's what you meant, Kyle, earlier. Yeah. Like we brought up Britney Spears, like, no hate on Britney. Just
whoa, chill out on Britney. I like Britney.
Yeah,
right.
Dance. She was a great dancer.
She was a great dancer, and you know what? That's probably her art. That's where her artistic ability comes in, and being able to like work those hours and do that shit. But
she can sing too.
Okay.
Brittany, man. Hey, Brittany, hit me up. Give me some tickets to your Vegas show.
Right. Okay.
I like this area that. Sorry, I know you want to move on, but I like this area that we're getting into, because it's like this conversation is really has turned into something very specific, and that is the choice of the person. Mm-hmm. To whether or not, like, if they're gifted with an opportunity to create more, do they dive into the artistic side and get better at that craft, or do they just say, fuck it, they'll fix it in post and I'll just be here and make some money and then I'll bounce,
Yeah. And go ahead,
Barcy. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, just to wrap up this conversation about Britney, and maybe it'll come up again, but like, you've got these kids that are, have an interest in something, and then their parents really raise them in a way where they give them everything they need, where, Beyonce got a similar treatment, but yet she's maybe more skilled, like, naturally, and then worked on her craft in a different way than maybe another artist that just doesn't have that same ability. But it's like, you'd really have to be like, is it the ability? Is it talent? Or is
it work ethic?
Is it work ethic? Or are you focusing on the wrong things? And that's what I was getting at. Are you focusing on the wrong things? Are you focusing on packaging and making money and that? Or are you focusing on creating a process for this kid, diving into the talent, teaching them that they need to, work on X, Y, and Z, and focus on what you want to say as an artist? Yeah. So, like, what's
the craftsmanship of the whole kind of like undercurrent of craftsmanship in this whole thing. Speaking about this, I loved what you said, Barcy, about how, it really does take, we all have artists inside of us, and we all have like these great projects and these absolute gems inside of us. And to make that come to life in like a greater view takes a certain skill set, or like takes a skill set maybe that we possess from birth, maybe, but most of us have to like really study and work and drive, and that probably comes down to like, as an artist, you're also a craftsman. You study your craft, whether that be songwriting or music theory or screenwriting or acting or whatever. You try to get to a level where you can express yourself in a truthful view that you're proud of, and that you can look at it and say, yeah, this is my truth. And for people who are actually studying and striving for that, it's just making everybody better. Like it's really pushing, artists push other artists. And that's what's incredible about the community is people are making such beautiful things and such innovative, unique things from striving to get their vision out there. And I think it's a good testament to all of us to try to do that at the end of the day.
So I got a great question, because this will help. When you started, Christina, you talked something about you said something about the overusage of being an artist. And so my question to all of you, yes or no question, now that we've kind of discussed identity and just right now we were really getting into the specifics of choices and the things that we do that separate us from one who is here just to make money and or somebody who's here to push themselves in their art. Do you think that the word artist is overused, or not overused, but I guess wrongly placed as an identifier?
In what context?
In the context like the greatest ever. Like everybody's the greatest ever.
That's a different thing. Don't get me started.
No, but like everybody's an artist, right? But like, and everybody's the greatest ever, or everybody's the MVP, or this person is the best rapper alive. Like these things are like they're overused identifiers, and I was wondering if you think that the word or calling somebody an artist is an overused identifier.
I don't think the reason the word artist is, but I think saying somebody is better than somebody else or is the greatest is complete bullshit. Like, and it's something we do all the time. Oh, you gotta hear this guy, he's the best. No, he's not. Like,
right.
He's never the best. There's no such thing. And even if there was, it'd be relevant to each. Like, it'll be, it's each person's point of view. So it's.
Yeah, it gets it comes back to that whole comparison thing. Like, you just can't, because it's like comparing apples and oranges.
I think that the word artist is an overused identifier. I think that people call people artists all the time who are not necessarily artists just because, or people call themselves artists when they're not necessarily artists. And I didn't come to that conclusion before we started talking. It was while we were talking, I was like, oh yeah, you know what? Like there are people in my life and people I know who are like, oh yeah, I'm an artist. This is what I do. But like, they don't really do any art. They don't really focus in on a form and continue to progress in that form.
I can say
maybe they did. What were you saying?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought, yeah. The only thing that comes to mind that I used to get very frustrated with, and perhaps it was my own issues that I was like not comfortable with. Maybe that's why I was so frustrated with it at the time, where now I think I could care less. But at the time when I was in acting class, for example, you get these kids that come to town and somebody in their hometown told them they either were really attractive and they should be an actor, and that's it.
Welcome to LA.
And then they go, great, I'm going to move to LA. And then they just think that that's it. That's all you need. And then they get into class and they're fumbling and they're having a really hard time. And it's very like shocking to them. And it's sort of annoying to watch them go. This is like complete honesty right now. It was really annoying to watch them go through that part of the process, because I was like, well, like, why don't you know this? So it's like part of it was like my own issue with maybe just not being sensitive to like what that experience is like. But that used to bug the crap out of me and be like, you think you're an artist, but you've never had a craft, and this is your first.
You got to put the time in.
But they're in class, so they did have an attempt because they were in class. So I'll give them that.
To me, there's the duality of it. It's like we've been saying, like. I personally, I don't mind the broad term of artist. I don't mind it. But I don't personally, when I look at other people, like if they want to call themselves artists, that's fine. But my opinion of them, that's for me to decide. And for me to call them an artist is a completely different thing. So if they're going ahead calling themselves artists, I'm like, that's cool. I don't I mean, I don't think you are, but if you want to identify as that, I actually have no problems with that because I do think it's a broad term and it's hard to pin down what exactly an artist is. Well,
But
my
that's my
opinion,
question.
yeah, but
Do
my
you think it's
Kyle.
opinion,
overused?
no,
I
I don't. I don't think it's overused. I don't think it's overused, but I think I'm very careful to use it myself. I think is what
Hmm.
I'm saying.
So my question is, when is it fair for somebody to call themselves an artist? Like, when's the moment when you've earned it? And who's to tell you when that
Well,
moment
that's
is?
and but like I think we've as an individual, you can call yourself whatever you want and identify with whatever you want. I just want to know your opinion placed on somebody else on whether or not if you think that the term is overused. Because I'll say this, I agree that anybody can identify themselves as whatever, but there are certain things that I believe in and I respect, and I've put in a lot of time to my craft and my art. And if somebody's just like, I'm just gonna fucking try this thing for like a year, and you want to call yourself an artist, like, I'm not gonna sit here and call you an artist. You can call yourself an artist, but I'm not gonna sit here and disrespect my art form and or a lot of these people who have put in so much time to honing and pushing themselves to call themselves artists.
I think
I
you're
wouldn't call
pretty
you an
similar
artist.
to what I'm saying. You're just saying
Yeah,
it in a different
100%.
way. But I do
Agreed.
think that my what I will like underline is the word artist in my head is a huge broad thing. And
Hmm.
when people call themselves artists, it doesn't bother me at all because
Yeah,
it's such a broad term that I'm like, yeah,
like whatever.
okay,
Yeah, same here.
right. But if I
I wouldn't
call
call it.
them like
Yeah,
a particular artist, like if they're a musician and I go, okay, that guy's a musician, then I'm like, he's definitely a musician.
he's an artist. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Mm.
look at it in those two ways, like personally.
Kyle,
I
I want
think
to
it's
hear more what you think. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting. I think that I think Lloyd, what you're saying as and I can identify with that when you work so hard on something and somebody's coming in and maybe not doing the work that you may have or the time that you've put in and is maybe like owning that title, that hits a nerve. But at the same time, there's really no basis for how much time it takes or what it takes, or there's no marker. And some people get things much more quickly and much more successfully than, the amount of time than somebody's has 20 years. Somebody gets it right away. Like it goes back to life isn't completely fair. But at the same time, it doesn't take away the power of what you know. And if somebody wants to identify as I'm an artist, again, this is just my personal view. Like the way I'm looking at them, like if they say I've just started acting, and I'm an artist. Okay, cool. Like then that's if they're identifying themselves as that, then my assumption is that they're going to put themselves in that mind space. And that only benefits the artistic community. If we've got more artists making things, then awesome. If they want to identify as that. Now, if they're a social media guru, they're showing me how to do my makeup and they say, well, no, that's not really right. Because there's some makeup girls out there that are fucking artists. Like those chicks are good. But if there's somebody like, filming their dog and but again, it's so broad. And
Yeah.
I think it really goes down. Yelpy, when you're saying when somebody calls himself a musician, and it's like, well, what instrument do you play? Well, I just picked up the guitar. Okay.
I think like on what
But
you're saying
that's
is like
exactly what I was saying. It's like if somebody just started an acting class,
Right,
right?
but artist is so broad. If you pare down actor, like all of these titles that we're giving to everyone, like there's really no. The entire community of artists would love to be held up to a different standard, so that that like at least
Yeah.
society can know like this is actually what art is, and it's not somebody just like schlepping the fuck around and trying to make money and thinking that this is what the public wants. Like this, there was thought behind this and there was work and there was a point of view. So I get what you're saying about how when you hear people identifying as artists that maybe, you personally don't like, you're not viewing it that way, who's to say what they're doing like on their own damn time and like in their own their own bedroom and what they're trying to create.
But once again, we personally as human beings I can easily say I don't believe that person is an artist, and who's to say that I'm wrong, right? That's just me. That's just me. That's my opinion. And so I just want to know your opinion. If so you think everybody's just an artist?
No.
If I say I'm an artist, I'm an art. That's what you're saying. If I say I'm an artist, then you're gonna respect them and say, okay, well, you're an artist.
I might not respect you, but I'll go. I'll go with the basis of if you're identifying as an artist, okay, I'll give that to you. You're an artist. Yeah. What do you do? Well, this is what I made. I might not like your art and I might not get it, but dude, I am one person out of like millions on this planet, so I'm probably not your audience, or I'm probably not the conduit for you to kind of communicate what you're trying to communicate.
Well, I still think it comes back to engagement. So let's say you've identified as an artist. You're like, great, this is who I think I am. Maybe it's this big revelation. Like, let's say it's this big revelation. Like, holy crap, like I've been pursuing the wrong thing. I've been covering this thing up inside me for so long. And it's like, great. So what are you going to do about it? You can be like a closeted artist, and be like, I wish I pursued this in my life. I would have been an artist, and I feel like I know people like that for sure, especially people that are a little bit older that took a different path that, could have really embraced that in themselves. And I know they're creative people and they've dabbled but they never, took on, there's a life that comes with that, right? With like really pursuing being an artist. And then that's where I see through like coaching and stuff like that. I hear this a lot of, a lot of people that get a little bit older and lived a whole different life come to another chapter in their life where they have some time again to be with themselves. And they realize, there's this whole part of them they've ignored for so long. Mm-hmm. And they're like, holy crap, like this is something that's always been there. And maybe let's say it's a person that draws like a drawing artist or painter. And they're like, I've always loved this, but I've never had time. I've never been able to indulge in the process, but they've always been good at it. And for them, this is why I say, the other question was, I think one of them was like, is your art, if it's a hobby, are you still an artist? And for a lot of these people, it's been a hobby for so long, but now they have time to treat it differently. So are they an artist? Like, that battle for them is, but it's really hard for them to identify that way. Yeah. Because
I know somebody.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think, we probably all do. I know people like that. Yeah. And I've heard people talk through a whole process of trying to get there. Just identifying themselves as that was such a big, like, hurdle.
Yeah. And I know somebody who, like, just paints. They don't show anybody their painting. They don't sell their paintings. It's something that they love to do. They love to come home, every once in a while, come home. And it's like I said, it's a hobby for them. It's not how they make their money, but it's therapeutic for them. And they love to paint, and they consider themselves an artist. And so do I. And that's why I find this identity question is so interesting, because it is so personal. Mm-hmm. And it's such a broad thing that everyone is going to have completely different, a completely different view on how to identify yourselves and how we view other people and identify them.
That's why I think it's a double barrel question, really. It's like, basically, do you consider yourself an artist, and do other people consider you an artist?
Yeah,
they're the two things that, and they don't always have to necessarily gel, or you can consider yourself an artist, and I can look at you and go, no.
Do that face.
And personally, what I like to do is, like, when somebody says they're an artist, I'll kind of go, yeah, and that's cool, but not until I hear something or see something that that qualifies them as an artist to me, would I actually refer to them as an artist? And and then you also have like people like you were just saying that like their day job might be school teacher and they might go home and paint. Like my mom, for example, paints. She's an artist. She can paint. And paint better than I can. To me that's amazing. Like what she does.
We didn't know you painted.
Yeah.
I don't know how to judge that because
I don't.
Okay, so she can.
So you're
paint.
judging your mom against you. That doesn't.
Oh man, we ain't here to judge our moms, man. Come on now.
I guess that was just a figure of speech.
You just assume you're better at everything than your mom?
Yes. If you're better than me, then you must be good.
Now we really know what Yelpy thinks of himself.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, if you're better than me, then you must be really good.
That's how I judge. I call
Everything.
I call it the Yelpometer.
Yeah.
Everything suddenly makes sense.
Right.
That's too funny. What is your Yelpometer? Well, on your own meter, if you were judging yourself by your own meter, what would you be?
Ooh, that's good.
Right now? Today?
That was a typical Barcy. So
What?
Yeah. What would you be on the Barcy meter right now?
I'd be like an 8 to 9.
Okay. And
Yeah.
what can you do to get to a 10?
Probably meditate.
Okay.
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Yelp.
What?
What would you be on the Yelp meter?
Oh, I told you I'm a solid 7.
All the time.
All the time. What can you do to get to a 10? I can't. I
Can't.
need to judge everyone.
No, it's like no one ever gets to 10.
Hey,
Oh.
not in the Yelp world. Because
Okay.
I'll cut you down, sucker.
Lloyd, what are you on the Lloyd meter?
Lloyd meter. I'm gonna say I'm with Christina. I'm at like a 8.5. Went to go work out today. Worked on some voiceover stuff. Yeah, and the only thing that'd get me to a 10 is if I had me a little schmirk, maybe a whiskey, give me some sex.
Oh.
Yeah, I get me to a 10,
Oh. Kyle?
even beyond.
I'm pretty sure I'm at like a 9.5. I got to songwrite today. I got to work on production, got to do some voice stuff, got to do some creative writing, like really living my best life today. Got to hang out with you guys and talk. So that was very motivating. So I already feel really good. Only thing that I could get me to a 10, little bit more stoned.
Yeah, and also some light.
And maybe some good lighting. And maybe the fact that I don't need to be in my room huddled in like a hole, like away from my parents.
Is the apocalypse coming?
Yeah.
What's up?
What'd you say?
Is the apocalypse coming? Are you hiding?
The
in your-
apocalypse might be coming. My husband also might be coming. And yeah, it does look like.
What are you hiding from him? Are you cheating with us?
No, he's playing like FIFA in the next room. He's living his best life. He's so happy.
Living his best life.
The fuck is FIFA?
Football.
Oh, Christina.
I'm sorry.
Christina.
I live in a hole, actually.
No. You're doing actual things with like actual people.
In a hole.
And like the yellow. Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
he's
and-
probably playing against people online, is he?
He is. He's
Yelpy's like, give me your coat. What's your
yeah,
name?
what's his name? What's his
I'm
name?
going to be doing it.
Who the
Yelpy's
fuck is that
ready.
stuff? Who the
Who's your
fuck
team,
is that?
Yelpy? Wait, seriously, who's your FIFA team?
No, I don't play FIFA.
Hmm.
I don't like football. Never did.
Really? What's your sport? Do you have a sport?
Football.
Really. Badminton.
Badminton? Is that
Oh,
what that was?
Badminton, yeah.
Badminton.
No, I don't like badminton. That was a joke.
It's his accent.
It's
Badminton. That's the one with the little bag.
It's called a shuttlecock.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Hi.
art.
That is our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for listening from all of us here at Permission to Play podcast. We hope you invite a little more creative space and permission into your day. We'd love to hear what you think by leaving us a review on iTunes. Please subscribe and share, and you can also find all of us on social media. Till next time, and don't forget to play.
Does my mic sound great now?
Yes.